early January, a pack of Western media outlets turned to satellite images to claim China's funeral homes had been overwhelmed.
Show crowds and long lines of cars waiting
More
outside.
activity, more cars, more people lined up.
To find out the real situation actually on the ground, we went to one of the biggest crematoriums in Beijing. This is also the funeral home CNN visited in January. Western media use satellite images and this parking lot as evidence of China's COVID-19 death spike. But the crematorium staff told me the new one was built because new facilities have been built in the old one, preparing for a possible spike. But they were never used during the COVID wave. Western journalists chose to extrapolate with their predictable imaginations from the satellite images rather than asking for and being confronted with the truth.
When we think about media, especially Western foreign media, who has a terrible reputation here in China, actually going to families, crematorium services, to film, to do news journalism reporting on such a sacred and private time that's supposed to be respected. First of all, this is terribly insulting and disrespectful to the families.
As we go through these rather morbid reports speculating with fervor on how many people may die from COVID in China, we discover an interesting timeline. The satellite images first appeared as an exclusive in the Washington Post on January 9th. 3 days later, CBS, CNN, NBC, and Time all followed suit, citing the same images from the same satellite company. Apart from the mainstream Western media, CNN News 18, major disinformation outlets for the Indian government, also jumped on the bandwagon.
Why do these media outlets all of a sudden love satellites? Have the Western media use satellite images to track the traffic at US crematoriums or in any other country? What a laughable double standard.
A closer look at the providers of these satellite images will give us another useful piece of information. Both Maxar Technologies and Planet Labs work closely with the US government and the media, and they have billions worth of contracts to supply imageries to various agencies of the US government.
In 2021, the Washington Post got an exclusive report purporting to show a satellite image of more than 100 missile silos, which was provided by the Planet Labs. After verification, it turned out to be a wind farm.
这个炒作缺乏常识，美国估计炒到最后自己脸都红。
Using satellite images is just another propaganda technique. It started, in fact, with the accusations of genocide of the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. And then they would use satellite images, which turn out to be satellite images of apartment complexes and schools, which they were saying were, quote, concentration camps. And they're going to use this same kind of propaganda, satellite images, to create that same narrative. And the truth is not what they're interested in.
BBC has found evidence of a considerable COVID death toll in China's rural areas.
All those we meet who are working in the funeral industry speak about an explosion in demand.
I'm at a Beihu village in Xinzhou in northern part of Shanxi province. Here is a place where a BBC reporter claimed they find evidence of a considerable COVID death toll. For decades, people in the village have been making funeral ornaments for a living. But here, we find a different story.
Wang Peiwei has just lost his sister-in-law. He says the cost of Buddhist funeral images like these has skyrocketed.
Wang Peiwei lost his sister-in-law to COVID-19. But he did not expect his words to the BBC would be twisted into meaning something else.
我也不知道他们是记者，他们只不过说是了解这个村里头的风俗习惯了，怎么打发人呢？
那当时他们有没有向你表示他们是过来就是采访一下村子里的疫情的情况？
没有说疫情呀，他就是主要是说这个风俗习惯了。
We revisited the same people the BBC talked to. Their testimonies show the extent of the exaggeration these Western media will go to fabricate a story.
没有说疫情呀，他就是主要是说这个风俗习惯了。
We revisited the same people the BBC talked to. Their testimonies show the extent of the exaggeration these Western media will go to fabricate a story. In the nearby Poultry village, we also found the village doctor Dong Youming featured in the BBC report.
发热的药，你看这，
感冒。
这是尊称药。你看这药有很多，不可能说像他说的说没药了。
村民们感染新冠过来配药，他们买得到药吗？
能买到，因为咱这不漏风是这，不是说医院一电话你一克了就买3盒5盒，咱这是你就给你2天3天的量，你吃完如果不行，咱再看，不会说是一整盒让你买下走。你像马丁的一盒42粒，一次才吃1粒，你买给42粒的，他3天好了你还要给吃，平时就是才能买的。
Dong also told us villagers can pick up medicine for free provided by the government in his clinic. When asked about the COVID deaths in the village, Dong showed us another sheet tallying all the names of those who have died.
往年比如说也是死25到30万，这次死了大概做30，还要添油加醋说了，咱也没办法，咱实际情况就是死了大概900人。往常这个时间段可能是4、500是吧？这话是个900，可是同年算下来，好像是那30万。
In a nearby Buluo village, we find the BBC even overdubbed the villagers' responses and altered what they were actually saying.
Hello.
他们一直是在重复的问这个问题，就是是不是因为疫情最近死的人比较多？因为每年冬天就天气比较干燥啊，因为这个原因，这个我们也没法确定这个。
我们就没说话，没有说话。
然后，但是他们后来陆续的报道是说，就是这批疫情导致了中国农村有很多人死亡。
当我听到这个消息的时候，我比较震惊吧，因为当时我们回答的时候没有这么回答。
We conducted a statistical analysis of CNN's COVID-related reports from December 1st, 2019 to January 31st this year, and we found a startling contrast. In CNN's reports on the epidemic, there were 11,629 that mentioned the US medical expert Fauci. Meanwhile, a tiny few times were Chinese experts' names mentioned in their reporting on the COVID situations in China. There was 155 reports mentioning Zhong Nanshan, 65 mentioning Sun Chunlan, 34 mentioning Wu Zunyou, and Zhang Wenhong is only 29. The total is only 2% of Fauci's mentions.
A lot of times when you're looking at the more formal health reports about what's happening inside China, you're not going to find quotes of the people that you should find, which is the Chinese health experts that are inside China. You're only going to find health experts that are based in the United States, or maybe they're based in Hong Kong or Taiwan, where there are political forces who want to create divisiveness where there isn't any.
In September 2022, CNN's business reporter Laura He wrote a series of articles saying that China was facing an unemployment crisis and its economy was in a bad shape. Her reason? China's COVID control measures. But after China lifted its restrictions, she immediately suggested opening up could cause more headaches.
The only country that had positive GDP in the whole wide world during lockdowns was China. What happened since with opening up, we have pent-up demand. During the holiday, we had the record-breaking box office for Man Zhanghong Red River, which was Zhang Yimou's new movie, which also came out was Wandering Earth 2. Between these two and a couple of other movies in just 1 week's time, won over $1 billion in box office in the movie theaters. It's just, I want to see what is the action that was taken, what was the result that we got. And the result that we got was overall, frankly, the best result of all the countries in the entire world in terms of protecting the country and the people from this pandemic.
Three years on, and the Western media's obsession with misrepresenting China's COVID situation isn't going away.
I wonder why it is, according to intrepid reporters in the Western media, that China cannot do anything right. First, it was doing too little to address COVID-19. Then, it was doing too much and needed to reopen. And now, it is wrong to open up as it is. But if you look at things objectively, and take off the blood-tinged Western spectacles. Is all the criticism really warranted?
COVID was and is a crisis that touches everyone. During our visit to villages in Shanxi, a group of elderly people were bathing in sun despite the chilly weather. We asked one of them if they got COVID yet. He smiled and said, "No, I never felt ill." The Western media has been quick to criticize China at every step of the way. But for those Chinese people who actually live in the country, their opinions are apparently not relevant.